Racism. Yep.
Tell me, is there a racism right now in the U.S.?
Is there a racist?
Yeah.
Sure, probably.
Have you ever dealt with one? Have you ever experienced racism in the U.S.?
I mean, look, to me, I experienced assholes that say racist stuff.
For instance?
Like, for example, I was telling this story the other day. This was back in 2006 or 7. Actually, no, there's 2. The second one was bad. I was like, dang, that was racist. I only one, it was a white lady in West Hollywood, but I'll get there. So
in West Hollywood?
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic. I was like, what? But so I'm working at this bar in Pasadena. And me and one of the bartenders, we went outside, you know, and we were hanging out for a bit. And we were coming back in kind of later in the night, so things were kind of slowing down. And we were coming back in, and my best friend was working the door. As I'm walking back in, all of a sudden, he's a very laid back, very like calm, put together guy. Like it takes a lot to get him to like, it's time to scrap, you know. And he all of a sudden, as I'm walking by, he just goes, "You out of here now!" to some guy, like really turned up, and I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I turn around and there's a group of Armenian people there, majority guys. The girls were kind of standing behind. And it was this tall cat. You can tell he was drunk, right? He's kind of like, "What are you talking about, man? I'm just trying to." And Brian, my buddy's like, "Nah, man, I saw what you did." Like he was like, again, he's not a guy that gets there.
Like he's back.
Yeah, and he's ready to go. And I'm just like, that's my guy, so I'm gonna roll with him. But I'm gonna always try to be like, hey guys, let's just chill out. And so the guy, they're going to getting louder and louder. So I get in to separate them, and I grab the guy by his arms, and we walk back a little bit. And I'm like, "Hey, man," like close to his ear. I go, "Dude, chill out. I work here, man." Everything else. He pushed me back and looked at me, and he goes, "F you." I'm like, and so I get obnoxious. I'm like, "F me, F you." He goes, "You're a bitch," and I'm like, "You're a bitch." He goes, "You're a pussy." I'm like, "You're a pussy." And I'm just laughing.
It works.
Yeah, it works. I'm just like laughing, and he goes, "You're a nigger," and like that, and I go, "That's all you had?" I start laughing, and I'm like, "Dude, that's weak sauce." He goes, "Ah!" He screams, and he starts coming in at me for the swing. And at this point, I had been training. What was I training at that point? I think I was in Eagle Claw Kung Fu, and I've been doing training like consistent training, so I'm like, I'm ready to rock, right? And he goes, "Ah!" And he screams, and then he throws a punch like that.
Like that?
Yeah, and I was like,
so he is a bitch.
Yeah. Oh man! But I'll tell you this: the first time he threw, and the second time was a little closer, so I did a block, and I backed up a little bit because also this is in front of my job, so I'm not trying to get into a brawl in front of my work. This guy's just visiting, right? The second one he did, and it kind of touches me a little, and I thought to myself, I can't fight this guy. I'm gonna kill him, right? But then at this point, so we're standing here. Brian's right here, and then we had this other little Mexican cat, but he was like a short, but like big, just muscle, right? And him and his brother started boxing, and it was that tall dude, and we were backing up, and then 3-4 more Armenian guys come, and there's like a crowd. They start kind of coming forward. We're backing up, and I'm like, I don't want to fight this guy because like I'm gonna hurt him, you know. And then we're getting close to the sidewalk or to the corner of the street, and it was that point of like, that's the line. And it was literally like an action movie. So we come here, back up, and it was that moment like, there's no more backing up. And I just set in. And I see the corner of my Brian goes, because he knew karate since he was 5. He goes, like this, right? The other little Mexican cat, he's like, like everyone, it was like and I'm like, whoa, this is about to happen. And all of a sudden somebody yells out, "They call the cops," and everyone left. So like that was one incident where I'm like, this person, like, I don't believe he's racist, like goes around it, but he's just like trying to hurt, right? So he's trying to find what's gonna hurt me. So then like I'm in West Hollywood years later, and there's this was to me, this is probably the biggest racism that I've ever faced in that sense. But I mean, it is what it is, because I would really kind of think like that could be one racist, but there's also 20 people who are amazing, right? So it's just, that's on them, and then they have to hold on to that in order to justify their life. That's a lot more work than me being like, I gotta get you. Like, nah, just go over here and live a better life. So we're at 7-Eleven. If anyone knows LA, it was a 7-Eleven right by off La Cienega. That's right by Barney's Beanery and IHOP. That's right there. There's an IHOP right there on La Cienega and Santa Monica. So I go into the 7-Eleven. I'm just chilling. I get like some sandwiches. I just finished doing like some random job I have working for a landscaping company. And I'm in line, and this woman, this blonde woman, she's a little older. I think at this point I'm like 30 something. She was probably like late 40s, early 50s. And one thing about LA, there's a lot of people who try to hold on to that 22. You know, that 22-year-old thing. You can kind of tell when they're older, just a little more chaotic because they're like, I'm still pretty, right? Like whatever. So I literally, bro, and I'm gonna do it to you what I did. I'm standing there, and I'm like, I'm two people behind her, so it's like the person's in front of me, and then there's her, and I'm standing there, I'm just chilling with my sandwich. I gotta look over, and she looks at me, and I go, and she goes, just sick of you black people always thinking that all these white women want you, and it's not even about that. I'm like, what? I'm like, what happened? And she starts going off and about how black people, and then how the black people are giving her tickets because like majority of the parking enforcement are black, and these black people give me tickets and it's not fair because da 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 da. You black people think all white women want to have sex with you, and I'm just like, I just said, I didn't even say hi, I didn't even audible anything. I was just like that. She went on a tirade, and it was funny too because I see it's all those. This is why I know. This is why I started seeing like liberals are cowards. Because all the people around me of different backgrounds, people, heads down. There's one lady, there's like one other blonde lady who was younger, had a dog. She's, I'm out. Took off. I remember seeing that person working behind the counter was just like, no one said a word.
Because the shit is going down.
The shit was going down. And I'm just standing there. I'm like, are you crazy? Then I started talking back to her. I was like, oh, yeah. Because everyone thinks, I was like, wow, ladies, that's fun to be racist. And I don't really remember everything I said to her. But the only one guy out of all of them just looked at her and was like, what'd you say? She's like, this guy said, you said that? And she's like, yeah. He goes, you're effing disgusting. You're garbage. And that was it. That was the only guy that said anything. But everybody else was just, they got scared. And I'm like, all right, this is nuts. She has issues going on, and that's worse than me. But that's to me, that's the biggest level of racism I've ever faced. You know,
so probably she wants the dick, but no one's giving it to her.
No one's giving it to her, or she's thinking about that old one that happened that left her, that she fell in love with. Now she's like, nah, and it's like it all comes back to that. So I think the idea of racism in this country has definitely been blown out of proportion, especially now. Yes, there was a time where people sport killed, black folks and whatnot and terrorized them. But we don't live in that time. And it's actually really disingenuous and insulting to the people who did live there and were fighting so that you can be left alone at the end of the day, that you can walk down the street and not have somebody pull over and try to mess with you because just your skin color. Like that doesn't exist in the same way anymore. And people like to act like it does. We have to acknowledge the progress we make, or we're never going to move forward from that progress. And the last point I'll make, even on that idea of racism, and somebody watched this video and it blew my mind because it's like, again, we have great ideas but bad marketing. The only culture and civilization in the history of the world to condemn slavery to the point of legislation and blood has been the West, and more specifically the United States. Mm-hmm. Still to this day. You go to the East, you go to Africa, you go to Asia, some Asian countries, they still have slavery.
Yes.
But the West, from England starting the African squadron to blockade West Africa from slavery, and then the U.S. joining, the U.S. Navy joining that in 18, I want to say it was like 1815 or 1820 that they joined, and now the U.S. and England are blockading. So the goods that would go back to the Americas wasn't happening of people. From there, you see to the Civil War, where it's like over 300 or 400,000 people died. White men died to free the slaves. And people want to say, some people to dilute that, go, oh, well, it wasn't about slavery, it's about economics. Well, it's about both. Because if you're blockading, i.e. sanctioning a country for their goods, they're going to end up being a fight. That's why Hong Kong went to England, because of the opium trade. And they're like, look, we want the space. So they fought a war over it, now they had Hong Kong. It's the same thing. The African squadron in the U.S. stopped in 1864, the beginning of the Civil War. So our country has been this egalitarian fighting against slavery to the point where we put blood on the line. Show me other cultures of the East, of Africa, of Middle East, of the West, or of Asia that has done even close to half of the amount.